page 113, it shows what flight he took, at what time, a British Airways flight on the 16th, and arrived in London on the 17th. The only business that comes out from that document and his documents is that he got a will signed, and there is no further evidence of his activities in London until 24th, when the only activity in which he didn't participate was to be present when his brother died in London. But all this I'm saying in relation to the allegations that we have against the Deputy President.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Council, ordinarily,
Yes.
no objections are raised during the 30 minutes of the opening statement. Ordinarily. I have tried to accommodate, but now you're stretching my generosity a bit too far. Allow Senior Counsel Orengo to conclude. In your opening statement, you may choose to make a rejoinder.
What I want to conclude is this. From what I've said, from the way his brother's account were raided, that was continued to the time when All Life Guidance was acquired for a sale by proxy of 412 million shillings. He bought a property in Nyeri, the Outspan and Treetops for an amount exceeding 800 million shillings. And we're saying part of that money was not money coming from him, and evidence will show that he was raiding monies that truly belonged to the estate of his late brother to acquire property. If that is not an offense by law, these were proceeds of crime committed by the Deputy President to acquire property. And to drive this point home, the judgment by Justice Minor, which is also part of the record, where she made a determination, and that judgment stands, that the 200 million shillings that was found in an account with a financial institution, in excess of 200 million shillings, were proceeds of crime. And that 200 million shillings, again, the documentation here, if you look at it and we'll show it in evidence, was the same money that was used to acquire Treetops and Aberdares as part of the money that his sons were able to use to acquire those properties. So we are saying that the acquisition of these properties came out of criminal conduct, and all the particulars of the criminal conduct is found in the documents that were presented before the Senate. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think that it is critical that we look at the authority of the office of the Deputy President vis-a-vis that of the President, the doctrine of collective responsibility. And I showed why the office of the Deputy President is so important in carrying certain functions so long as he lives to the true spirit of the Constitution. Many times, and the incidents have been shown, acts of insubordination, like when he issued a press statement in Mombasa after the President himself had issued a statement that went contrary, absolute insubordination to the President, who is his boss. And if really one can talk about insubordination, that was an act of insubordination. Lastly, the other issue that I need to bring out quickly is that the Constitution and the Senate is aware of the fact that at the end of, at every 5 years, you pass a basis for allocation of resources here in the Senate. And they abide by certain principles which are contained in Article 203 of the Constitution. This issue about certain areas being preferred because they're shareholders goes against the very spirit of the Constitution. Or the notion that people can be appointed into government on the basis of how they voted or on the basis that they are shareholders, that is not again borne by the Constitution, because the executive authority that is granted to the executive requires that even in allocation of revenue and appointment of people to serve in the public service must depend on regional balance. So to talk about shareholders, to talk about some people being able to reap on the basis of shareholding, that is repugnant and in conflict with the provisions in our Constitution. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say this with all the seriousness it deserves. This Constitution is supposed to work. It's supposed to work. And it can only work if state officers are compliant with the provisions of the Constitution.
2 minutes to wind up.
Yeah. Well, if they're compliant with the provisions of the Constitution. The doctrine of collective responsibility and the authority of members of the cabinet spring from the fact that they are all individually and collectively responsible to the president. If that primary principle cannot be applied, then it will be difficult for any government elected to function in a manner that they can deliver services to the people of the Republic of Kenya. So I urge this Honorable Senate that having painted that large picture, the next phase, when you are now going to listen to the evidence and look at the exhibits that we have attached, you will find that a strong case has been made out for the impeachment and removal from office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And this Senate should not shy away from undertaking that responsibility. It does not matter that there is a matter that could be taken to DCI or to the AACC. The role of Senate is different to undertake oversight over those who are given a responsibility to manage the affairs of the country. And that does not depend on the role of any other agency or body created by the Constitution. Your role is to demonstrate to all people in state offices that this oversight role that you play, whether it is that of impeachment, to demonstrate to the people of Kenya that it is not cosmetic. And where there's evidence, like the evidence that we are showing and adducing before you, that person,
I'm afraid, Senior Counsel, your time is up.
Should suffer the consequence. I thank you. I thank you.
Counsel for the Deputy President. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and thank you, distinguished senators. My name is Elisha Ongoya. I stand here to make the Deputy President's opening statement. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, to open by reminding us some fundamental principles. We are sitting here today as a Senate to discharge a constitutional mandate. And before you are given the cudgels to start discharging any mandate in this Senate, the Constitution demanded that you had to take an oath of office before you do anything else. I now understand better why that oath of office was prescribed and why it was framed the way it was framed. The Deputy President reminds you the following terms in your oath of office before you assumed office to discharge the functions of senators. You have to bear true faith, and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya. You have to obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of Kenya. And you have to faithfully and conscientiously discharge your duties as members of the Senate. I submit respectfully that the case regarding the proposal to remove the Deputy President from office by impeachment may appear to put the Deputy President on trial, but that is only in the most technical sense of this process. At a more significant level, what is on trial throughout these proceedings is the resilience and steadfastness of our Constitution, our constitutional institutions of checks and balances, and actually their capacity to withstand any form of waves and pressures. That is what is truly on trial. His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua beseeches this House to keep in mind that we have a constitution, a constitutional order, and a constitutional democracy to protect as we conduct these proceedings and as we make decisions in these proceedings. He asks you that at the end of this exercise, let our constitution, our constitutional democracy, and our constitutional order emerge stronger. Allow me to address this House on the defined standard for impeachment of the Deputy President. In a comparable decision by the Supreme Court of Kenya, the case of Honorable Mike Mbuvi Sonko versus the Clerk, County Assembly of Nairobi and others, the Supreme Court observed as follows, and I quote, "It must, however, be stressed for the avoidance of doubt that the power of impeachment, removal, or recall is not one expected to be in constant or frequent exercise. It is only in the face of credible evidence of extraordinary wrongdoing that the conduct of a state officer will be investigated, and even then, only upon sufficient proof of the allegations that the impeachment, removal, or recall would be warranted." Two questions we pose must constantly linger in your minds, distinguished senators, as you undertake the assignment now before you. Question number one, we beseech you to bear in mind the question, is there credible evidence of extraordinary wrongdoing on the part of His Excellency Honorable Rigathi Gachagua before you? Number two, is there sufficient proof of the allegations leveled against His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua? Article 150, Clause 1, Paragraph B, sets out the grounds for removal of a Deputy President from office by impeachment. These grounds are, number one, gross violation of the Constitution or any other law. We emphasize the drafter's use of the word gross. Serious reasons to believe that the Deputy President has committed a crime under national or international law. Again, we emphasize the word serious, then gross misconduct. Surmises, conjecture, street rumors cannot pass muster. This conduct must be the conduct of the person of the Deputy President. It is sufficiently notorious for this court to take judicial notice of when the late Rigathi Gachagua, whose will is now referred to here, died. You are told to investigate the conduct of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua at a time, or at the time around which his brother, His Excellency Governor Rigathi Gachagua, as he then was, died. It is sufficiently notorious that His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua was not Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. But that's not enough. You will peruse the motion before you with a view to finding which ground in that motion is sought to be established by these allegations around what may or may not have happened around the time the late Rigathi Gachagua died. You will find absolutely no ground supported by those allegations. Let me disclose here. It is designed to whip your emotions. It has no other purpose. Looking at your oath of office that I've alluded to, there is no room for your emotions to be whipped as the basis of decision making in any act that you engage into in the discharge of your constitutional mandate and responsibilities. What does our Constitution expect of the mover of the motion in proceedings of this nature? Our Constitution expects the mover of the motion to make allegations of any or all the grounds set out in Article 150, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution. And to begin by submitting, it is true that the mover of this motion has written down some allegations in Volume 1 of the documents from the National Assembly. Secondly, the mover of the motion is thereafter expected to supply credible evidence of an extraordinary wrongdoing and sufficient proof of the allegations against the Deputy President. Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, we submit that is where the mover of this motion ought to start having problems with this House when he's called upon to account. It is the submission of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua that the motion now before you has fallen short of the threshold set by law by multiple miles. When you examine the material before you, you will discover that it will oscillate between the following categories of stages. One, you will have material before you that just plainly false. Then from falsehood, it will go to the ridiculous ones. And I'll demonstrate that shortly. There will be ridiculous claims here. Then finally, it will end up into embarrassing claims. Allow me, in the few minutes I have, to just do a snip preview of some of these claims so that we have an overview of the case that is before you. At paragraph 74B of the first volume, which is the impeachment motion, you will find an allegation of this nature that His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua has influenced his family members, allies, associates, and proxies to take control of a local cooperative society in Madeira, which they are financially hemorrhaging. Number one, no name of any family member is supplied in the allegation or in any of the evidentiary documents before you. No name of any ally is supplied in the motion or in any of the documents before you. No name of any associate is supplied, even a false name, none, is supplied in the motion and in the documents before you. No name of any proxy is supplied in the motion or in any of the documents before you. The name of the alleged circle is not identified. You can imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, being called to defend yourself on a claim that you have taken over through your associates a circle that we don't know. Told, now come and defend yourself. I began by saying some of these claims are either ridiculous or embarrassing. Secondly, at paragraph 74A, you'll be told that His Excellency has connived with cartels in the tea sector to block the Kenya Tea Development Agency from implementing guaranteed minimum returns that would benefit tea farmers. No statement, no affidavit, no correspondence from any official of the Kenya Tea Development Agency is before you. No complaint to any agency, no complaint to this parliament by any official of the Kenya Tea Development Agency is before you. It's just a claim which the mover of this motion said before the National Assembly, and surprisingly, to those of us who have some residual faith in our institution, he told the National Assembly, just believe my word for what it is. And when we thought that was a joke, we got a joke lifted a notch higher. The National Assembly actually just believed his word for what it is. No evidence. Nothing in the affidavits before you addresses anything about the Kenya Tea Development Agency. Nothing in the 5 affidavits before you. Let's progress, good people. Paragraph 72 of the motion before you states that His Excellency has persistently undermined, demeaned, and committed insubordination instead of assisting the President. And let's face it, Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, if you accuse somebody of insubordination, the only person who can complain of being insubordinated is the supervisor. No statement from the President, no affidavit from the President, even no witness summons to the President has been sought here to call him to complain he has been insubordinated. The Deputy President, when he received this motion, wrote to the Secretary to the Cabinet requesting to be supplied by all assignments given to him by the President and any that he has not delivered. To date, as we stand here, we have not received a response to that letter. And yet we shall be told, just believe the mover of this motion, the Member of Parliament for Kibwezi West constituency, that when he is oscillating between the National Assembly and Kibwezi West to serve his people, he knows better than the supervisor of the Deputy President that the Deputy President has insubordinated his boss. I began by observing they will move from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing, and these are the claims before you. At paragraph 64, paragraph A of the impeachment motion, you will be told that His Excellency, the Deputy President, said that he would present a petition for the removal of Justice Esther Maina from office, which he has not done to date. Mr. Speaker, sir, my eyes are normally problematic, so I will not know the time allocation.
15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, sir. The claim is that His Excellency publicly said that he would present a petition for the removal of Justice Esther Maina from office, which he has not done to date. That's the complaint. Evidence is before you that there is a pending complaint by His Excellency, the Deputy President, before the Judicial Service Commission. So the mover of this motion first has perjured himself in his affidavit by saying that each of these facts are correct, when this fact is false by evidence available. You will find that paragraph 34 of the motion before you, it says that His Excellency falsely threatened to to file a petition for removal of Justice Esther Maina. How can the Deputy President be accused of falsely threatening when in fact he has filed the complaint? Where is the falsehood when there is a pending complaint? That complaint is before you in the Deputy President's documents for your own perusal. I began by saying they'll move from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. At paragraph 78C, you'll be told that His Excellency routinely summons procurement officers in ministries and state institutions and instructs them to direct procurement of goods and services in a specific manner. No officer from any ministry will swear an affidavit claiming to have been summoned to award any procurement for any goods or any services in a particular manner. In fact, what you'll have before you is actually very ridiculous. You will be told that there was a tender for supply of mosquito nets that was cancelled in May 2023. Then a local company that was an agent of the supplier was following for the return of its bid bond in July, 2 months after the cancellation of the tender. How can you influence a tender that was cancelled 2 months ago? I told you it will move from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. Now, the more interesting one is at paragraph 78A. You'll be told that His Excellency bullied Kenya Medical Supplies Agency officials into awarding a tender for the supply of mosquito nets to Crystal Limited. Good people, Crystal Limited was not even a bidder for that tender. He pressurized people to award it to somebody who is not even a bidder for that tender. I observed it will move from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. Those of us who understand this motion for what it is, understand why these panel beating maneuvers are being tried here. The motion as presented and approved by the National Assembly will remain in our constitutional history as the most embarrassing motion ever approved by a House of Parliament in the Commonwealth. We respectfully submit. You'll be told at paragraph 58 that His Excellency is reasonably suspected to be the principal beneficiary of what are called dubious transactions by Lusona Events Limited. You will then go to the allegations on Lusona Events Limited and you want to see those transactions, how are they terminating to the Deputy President? You'll not come across any connection. They will just say, a director of this company withdrew some money from his own company. The Deputy President is a director. None of his family members are director. That person withdrew money from his company, bought a motor vehicle in his own name. The mover will say, I'm therefore drawing a reasonable conclusion that the Deputy President is the beneficiary of this. Good people, the word reasonable has meaning known to law. I submit very respectfully that this falls short of the definition of the word reasonable suspicion. I submit it actually gravitates towards unreasonable suspicion. Now let's look at this. You'll be told that His Excellency has acquired 40 acres of land in Kakuret, Kamburaini, in Nyeri. Evidence before you will show that this is land that the Deputy President in fact bought from a current member of the National Assembly. So he knows that member. In 2015, before he even joined state office as a member of parliament, you are told that the purchase of this land in 2015 shows that in the last 2 years, the Deputy President has amassed immense wealth. I began by saying, let's be elementarily decent. One of the most frustrating things about preparing for such a hopelessly conceptualized, hopelessly crafted, and hopelessly presented case is that you begin doubting yourself because you begin wondering, what am I not seeing? Land bought from a sitting member of the National Assembly in the year 2015 is supposed to be evidence that in the last 2 years, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua has amassed immense wealth from the office of Deputy President to acquire that property. Now, let's look at paragraph 45G. You'll be told that His Excellency has acquired 80 acres of land in Meru County. No land registration number is provided. Not even an affidavit of a neighbor who says, I know yes, this land is my neighbor. Just an allegation by the mover of this motion like that. And the Swahili say, ukistaajabu ya Musa utaona Firauni. This mover of this motion stood before the National Assembly and said, just believe me for this statement as it is. The first joke. The second joke, the National Assembly actually believed him and approved the motion. You'll be told that paragraph 45H, that His Excellency has acquired a dairy farm in Nyandarua County. Now, I guess we all have a common understanding of what a dairy farm is. His Excellency has no dairy farm in Nyandarua County. The move of this motion does not give us any evidence of this dairy farm in Nyandarua County. You'll be told that His Excellency has used the office of the Deputy President to corruptly influence unnecessary and expensive renovation of his official residence in Karen and Mombasa. What will shock you is this, good people. The contract for the renovation of the official residence of the Deputy President was signed by the controller of State House. Unless the move of this motion wants to make a claim that the Deputy President conspired with the State House to have this contract executed. Number two, it will be known to all of us as members of Parliament that the money for renovation of this official residence was approved by the National Assembly. Is the National Assembly conceding that it approved money for unnecessary expenditure by government? How can the National Assembly approve money for use for renovation of the residence of the Deputy President, then after that money is used for the intended purpose, the renovation of the official residence of the President, now drag the Deputy President for impeachment for the reason of that renovation? I said it will move through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. You'll be told that the Deputy President has a helicopter landing facility at his land, Ruguru, Kiamariga, 1223 in Madeira. The Deputy President simply has no helicopter landing pad on that farm, a small parcel of land with napier grass, unless the mover of this motion can now convince us that new technology has emerged, that napier grass is the constructing material for landing pads for aircraft. That's the only way it can make sense. But because it doesn't make sense, good people, you'll agree with me, it moves from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. Now let's deal with it. You'll be told the Deputy President has amassed a wealth portfolio amounting to 5.2 billion shillings. Elementarily, we must then look at the particularization. Tell us which one is what plus which one is what plus which one is what to amount to this 5.2 billion. This figure, the origin, is only known to the mover of this motion. There is nothing on the body of the motion. There is nothing in the documents attached to the motion. There is nothing in the video clips to be played by the mover of this motion that tells us mathematically how he arrived at this figure of 5.2 billion shillings. Then when the charges were read, distinguished senators, you had some 22 companies being read one by one. Thank you. 22 companies. A number of things will surprise you. You'll just find a company listed called Spiritway Limited. Nothing in this motion tells us what wrong has this company done. Nothing in the motion, completely. It just listed there the way it is. Fortis Vis Group Limited. Nothing in this motion tells us what wrong has Fortis Vis Group Limited done. They're just companies whose names have been listed, and we have spent the taxpayers' money this afternoon listening to these companies' names being written with nothing in this motion telling us. So what wrong has Dorcas Rigathi Foundation done? What act are you complaining of for that company? What omission are you complaining of in respect of that company? Heartland Supplies Limited, you just find a name of a company there. No wrongdoing is alluded to it. No allegation is made against it. They're just companies thrown there. Distinguished senators, the Romans called their assembly, which was the equivalent of this Senate, the patres. It was an advisory council. That name was derived from an old Latin word meaning father. Senate derives its name from the Latin word senex, meaning old man. All these words are supposed to address the sagacious, the state of wisdom of the Senate. If this Senate lives true to its historical origin as the patres, if this Senate lives true to its Latin origins as the senex, the old man, the wise man, it will see through these lies, it will see through this ridiculousness, it will see through these embarrassing statements. If time were to permit, I will take you through other allegations that meet the same test of falsehood, ridiculousness, and embarrassment. Fortunately for us, the rules of procedure permit us to cross-examine the move of this motion and the respective witnesses as a way of bringing forth these lies much more clearly. We shall do that when the time presents itself. At the end of it all, we shall beseech you to do two things: to be true to your oath of office as senators. To be true to your oath of office as senators. To pour through this evidence, to listen keenly to this evidence, to make a decision premised on the evidence as tested here in cross-examination. And if you do that, we have no doubt in our mind, you will reach the same conclusion that what has been presented before you as a most consequential motion, perhaps in our lifetime, is false, is ridiculous, is embarrassing. I rest the governor's opening statement.
That is the Deputy President Council. It's not the governor.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. I have been here multiple times on governors, and I think that is what was reigning in my mind. I rest the Deputy President's opening statement. My apologies for that.
Very well. Now, honorable senators will now move to hear the case of the National Assembly. Now, the National Assembly has 3 hours to present its case, meaning all the witnesses, evidence in chief, cross-examination will be given 2 hours. The legal team for the Deputy President, you'll have 2 hours to cross-examine the witnesses as presented by the National Assembly. Clerk, you may now usher in the first witness of the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, as we wait for the witness, I crave, if it finds favor with you, one of my assistants could come to help us with turning the pages. I reckon that way we would move much faster. Is called Boniface Mawira. He should be perhaps in the gallery.
That's a valid request. You may proceed. Counsel for the National Assembly, where are your witnesses coming from? They're taking too long.
I think they must be in room 4, Honorable Speaker. Our first witness is the Honorable Ekomas Mwengi Motuse, who was the mover of the motion.
Are you sure he's not deserted you?
It is always a risk in this type of business, Honorable Speaker, but I'm sure he's around.
So, Counsel, before you proceed, you first introduce yourself and the team.
Yes, for the record, Honorable Speaker, my name is Mudhomi Viankolu. I'll be doing the exam in chief on behalf of the National Assembly. I shall be assisted in that enterprise by my learned friend, Mr. Peter Manyonge Wanyama. I will cover grounds 1, 5, 6, and 7, and my learned friend will lead the witness in respect of the other grounds in the motion.
May the witness take the oath.
I, Mwengi Motuse, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before the Senate in respect of the matters before the Senate shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Your 3 hours starts running from now.
So, good afternoon, sir. Again, just for the record, confirm your name and what you do for a living.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Senators, my name is Mwengi Motuse. I'm the Member of Parliament for Kibwezi West constituency, and I was the mover of the instant motion that is before your consideration in the National Assembly. I am also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya by profession.
So, great. Let's go straight to the motion due to the constraints of time. Honorable Speaker, the motion is in volume 1 of the Assembly's bundle of documents. And allegation number 1 runs from pages 3 to 10 of volume 1. So, without much ado, Honorable Motuse, let's go to allegation number 1 of your impeachment motion. Can you tell the Senate in very condensed summary what is the grievance you have raised against His Excellency the Deputy President?
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Senators, on our ground 1 allegation against the Deputy President is that he has violated various articles of the Constitution that we have listed, being Article 10(2)A, 10(2)B, Article and C, Article 27, Article 73(1)A, Article 732(B), 75(1)C, Article 129, as well as Article 147(1), as read together with Article 131(2)C and D. And basically, what we are saying is that the Deputy President in the last 2 years has been in various places within the Republic of Kenya and has been publicizing a notion that Kenya is a company that is owned by shareholders, and only those who have shares in the company called Kenya, according to him, will benefit in terms of development and service delivery from the Republic. And it is our contention that Kenya is not a company. Kenya is a republic that is supposed to serve all Kenyans. And the particular articles of the Constitution that we have cited, because of time, also speak to the functions of the Deputy President being able to promote national unity, and the country, citizens of Kenya being able to receive services and development from the government, including appointments, without discrimination. So that is in short.
Let's quickly go through some of those provisions. If you could be shown the preamble to our Constitution, what does the third paragraph say?
Mr. Speaker, honorable senators, the preamble to our Constitution, and I read the third paragraph: proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity. Underline ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation. One indivisible sovereign nation.
We'll come to the evidence you have adduced to support this shortly, but are the utterances you complain about consistent with that constitutional provision?
Definitely not at all.
Let's go quickly to Article 10. What does it say?
Article 10(1). The national values and principles of governance in this article bind all state organs, state officers, public officers, and all persons whenever any of them A, applies or interprets this Constitution, B, enacts, applies or interprets any law, or C, makes or implements public policy decisions.
But, honorable member, someone would say these are just utterances and we surely can't remove a deputy president from office because he has a loose tongue or something like that. What is the problem with these utterances in the context of our history as the Republic of Kenya?
Number one, the constitutional context is that they bind all state officers, and the Deputy President is a state officer. So there are no two ways. You cannot choose the laws to obey and which not to obey. But number two, we have also had an history in our country. All of us would remember that we had clashes in Likoni in 1992 where populations were displaced. We had problems in Molo, every other cycle of election cycle, 1992, 1997. Even most recently, the country almost torn apart during the post-election violence of 2007 and 2008. There are examples within the region. Rwanda, Burundi is still struggling. As we speak today, Congo is fighting. Across the globe, Yugoslavia, there has been problems, Bosnia, all these countries. And they all began from utterances of this nature.
So is it your testimony, therefore, that utterances of the type we're about to see are a threat to the very existence of Kenya as a republic?
Indeed, that is my testimony.
Is our lived history consistent with the submission that those are not utterances that should emanate from the Deputy President of the Republic?
Not just the Deputy President of the Republic, but not from any citizen of the Republic.
But Honorable Mutuse, have you placed any evidence? You say the Deputy President has been doing this for 2 years. Have you placed any material to prove this allegation?
Yes. We have placed videos, evidence in the form of videos that have been recorded in meetings where the Deputy President has been attending, being video 1, video 2, video 3, video 4, video 8, and video 11, which contain utterances of the Deputy President in that regard.
Mr. Speaker, I request we play video number 1 from the National Assembly set of videos.
Sisi lazima tungeangalia nyinyi. Hii serikali ni kampuni na ni ya shares. Si ndio? Ni ya shares. Kuna wenye kampuni, wale wako na shares mingi, kuna wale wako na chache, kuna wale hawana. Sasa nyinyi mliinvest kwa hii kampuni ya William Ruto na Rigathi Gachagua. Sasa lazima mvune. Yule ambaye alipanda atafanya nini? Simulipanda? Simuliamuka mapema? Mukasema mutaki kusikia mambo ya ile system na nini? Muka invest, mukapanda, mukapalilia, mukaweka mbolea, mukamwagilia maji, wakati ya kuvuna ndio huu. Na itakuwa namna hiyo. Najua wengine wananikachifu ati mimi nasema ati wale walipanda wavune kwanza. Iko makosa? Iko makosa? Hata hao watavuna lakini wangoje. Si wale walipanda na wavune kwanza. Wakishavuna wavune ile tabaki kidogo, wale wakupanda waingie watafute huko nini ile itapatikana wachukue wakwende. Si iko namna hiyo? Na itakuwa namna hiyo. Ndio watu wakipiga kura waelewe hii kura ni kusema nini. Hii kura iko na maana. Nyinyi hamwezi piga kelele huko, mpige kelele. Mnasema William Ruto ni bure, hawezi, mnaita yeye majina, alafu akipata akikawa mnapiga laini atimuko pale mbele. Ati mnataka mpite wale walisema anafaa atimukue pale mbele. Inawezekana? Mimi kazi yangu pale kwa Ikulu ni hiyo. Ni kupanga hiyo laini. Hapo ni kazi mimi napanga hapo. Mimi naangalia kwa laini, nikiona we ulipanda, natoa wewe nyuma, napeleka wewe mbele.
Because of the constraint of time, Honorable Mutuse, what did these utterances mean and what were they understood by any fair-minded Kenyan to mean?
The ordinary meaning is that there are Kenyans who are supposed to benefit from the Kenyan government, and there are other Kenyans who are not supposed to benefit from the Kenyan government. And His Excellency the Deputy President will make sure only those who voted for the present government benefit from the government. And those who did not vote for the government will not get any benefits because they are not shareholders.
Are those utterances consistent with the national value of human dignity in Article 10B?
Not at all.
Are they consistent with the value of national unity in Article 10A?
Not at all.
Are they consistent with social justice in Article 10(2)B?
Not at all.
What about inclusiveness?
Indeed, they are divisive.
What about equality?
Not at all.
What about non-discrimination?
They are very discriminative.
What about protection of the marginalized?
They do not protect the marginalized, they marginalize them further.
We could go on and on, sir. Are those utterances consistent with any of the articles you claim in ground 1 have been violated?
Not at all.
Let's play video number 2, Honorable Speaker.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua again brought up the political shareholding narrative, saying the Kenya Kwanza administration will prioritize Kenyans who voted for it in the distribution of government employment slots and development projects. Well, Gachagua spoke in Nandi County, where he led other government officials in a church service and thereafter a fundraiser at Kurgung Boys High School. Ayub Abdikadir reports.
Mosop constituency in Nandi County offered Gachagua a platform to amplify his narrative about the government being a shareholding entity that apparently belongs to those who voted for it, calling on the people of Nandi County to remain patient as the state works on development projects and employment opportunities that would prioritize Kenya Kwanza supporters.
Rais ako pale, niko hapo, huyu Felix ako hapo. Rais mnamjua, mimi mnanijua msimamo yangu ya kwamba watoto wakiwa wengi kuna wale kwanza ya kuangaliwa, si mnajua. Sasa huyu Felix ako pale ndio mwenye kuunganisha mawaya. Mambo yetu tumepanga.
His remarks similar to the last time he sparked public debate by hinting at preferential treatment for Kenyans who voted for the government.
Mambo iko sawa, chakula iko jikoni karibu kuiva, watoto ni wengi, chakula ni kidogo, iko watoto ya nyumbani, iko ajirani, iko namna hiyo. Na nyinyi mtulie, chakula ikiiva sisi ndio wenye kupakua, na watoto tunawajua kwa sura na kwa msimamo. Hatuwezi kuwa confused. Kuna mtu wajua watoto yake.
The Deputy President, who led other Kenya Kwanza leaders for a church service and thereafter a fundraiser at Kurgung Boys High School, also outlined measures.
Let's play. In the interest of time, Mr. Speaker, I want to play all of them, then I'll put the questions. Let's hear video number 3, I believe.
Gachagua says he has no apologies to make over his shareholders' narratives, saying those who voted in the Kenya Kwanza government should reap big from the government.
Well, Gachagua, who was speaking in Nandi County, where he led a fundraiser towards the construction of the ACK Plaza in Kapsabet town, also dismissed claims that there are differences between himself and President William Ruto. Martin Munene has the details.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was in President William Ruto's Rift Valley backyard on Sunday, where he presided over a fundraiser in aid of Kapsabet ACK Church. And here the DP made it clear that he was not backing down on his shareholders' gospel that has left a bad taste in many people's mouths.
I am unapologetic to demand and to insist that those who believed in William Ruto and supported him to a man have every right to benefit immensely from his government. I have no apology.
Let's play video number 4, 8, and 11 in that sequence.
Serikali, a government is like a company. There is shareholding. Kuna wale who have invested a lot of shares. Kuna wale wameweka kidogo. Kuna wale wamekataa. Lakini wote ni wa Kenya. So ndio tukasema kama wewe umeenda kupanda mahindi, ama wacha nipeane example ya ng'ombe kwa sababu niko Kajiado. Wewe uko na ng'ombe yako ya maziwa. Hiyo ng'ombe imezaliwa ikiwa njao, umeichunga vizuri, umepatia majani, umenunulia dairy meal, umepatia chumvi, umepeleka kwa malisho, umepatia maji, imezaa, imeanza kukamuliwa. Wewe unatakiwa kwanza ukuwe mtu ya kwanza kukamua hiyo ng'ombe na kukunywa maziwa. Serikali, a government is like a company. There is shareholding. Kuna wale who have invested a lot of shares. Kuna wale wameweka kidogo. Kuna wale wamekataa. Lakini wote ni wa Kenya. So ndio tukasema kama wewe umeenda kupanda mahindi, ama wacha nipeane example ya ng'ombe kwa sababu niko Kajiado. Wewe uko na ng'ombe yako ya maziwa. Hiyo ng'ombe imezaliwa ikiwa njao.
We can go to the next because we see an element of repetition. Let's go to the next video.
Mimi nilisema pale Kericho watu ya Azimio wakanipigia kelele. Nikasema Kenya hii kila mtu afanyiwe kazi. Kwa sababu kila mtu analipa kodi. Na hao wabunge wakiongozwa na Kimani Ichung'wa wako pale bunge. Wagawe pesa kwa kila mtu Kenya. Na hivyo ndivyo inaendelea.
Yes, video number 11.
Fika watu ya kukusaidia. Utatafuta.
the good people of Homa Bay, that I am going to work with your leaders, the ones you have elected, so that we can develop our country together. Competition is over. Si tumemaliza mambo ya mashindano? Si tumemaliza mambo ya mashindano? Si ile kazi imebaki ni sisi kuwafanyia kazi sasa? Si ni kweli? Muko tayari kufanya kazi na mimi? Munasema nifanye kazi na viongozi wenu wale mliowachagua. Mimi nawahakikishia nitafanya kazi na wao, ndio tupange mambo ya maendeleo ya Homa Bay, tupange mambo ya maendeleo ya Kenya, ndio tuweze kupeleka taifa letu mbele. Tuondoe umaskini, tupange ajira ya hawa vijana, tupunguze gharama ya chakula, na tupange mambo ya maendeleo ya Kenya, tutengeneze nchi ambayo kila Mkenya anajivunia kuwa Mkenya.
So, Motusa, you know, we could play these videos on and on. Unfortunately, time is not with us. But please confirm that you have presented before Senate utterances made by the Deputy President on this theme in Kitui. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In Nandi, is that correct?
That is correct.
In Kericho, is that correct?
That is correct.
In Kajiado?
That is correct.
Please confirm it is in public domain. These utterances have been made in very many other places. These were just illustrations.
Indeed, I suspect they have been made even in the counties represented by the senators seated here.
Have these been isolated aberrations, or has it been a consistent campaign and mantra by the Deputy President across the Republic?
It has been consistent and, as the Deputy President says, unapologetic.
But you also played for us a video where the President is speaking. How does it compare with the utterances and the campaign by his deputy?
The President is preaching national unity, and I believe that is a function assigned to the President under Article 131 of the Constitution, to be a symbol of national unity. And the Deputy President is also required to deputize the President in